So my wake-up call was an actual literal wake-up call. My phone rang at about 7 a.m. on a Friday morning in May of 2014. It was a cleaning lady from our office, and the reason she was calling was because she said, I can't go in and clean today because there's some kind of police action happening on the building. So we had no idea what was going on, so we went to Twitter and we started to see that there'd been some kind of like burglary attempt, and the police were still engaged in a shootout with the guys who had gone in. In about 90 minutes, I was going to have my class of 25 fellows from around the world show up for a full day of class. And so we had to jump into action right away. And so a couple of nights ago, we've been in touch with Nairobi Garage. Some of you may know it. And so we called them and said, hey, it's an emergency. Our building's under attack. We need a place to have class. And so they said, well, come on over and you can use our conference room and we'll give you some space for free. So very generous of them. So we mobilized and we got onto our WhatsApp group and we told everyone, classes, don't go to the building under any circumstances. Classes shifted to Nairobi Garage. Please go there. And so by like 9:15, 9:30, only about 20 minutes late, we were in class again. So I don't know, for those of you who don't know what Amani Institute is, we're an education and training organization. We run a number of programs around the world, and mostly what we do is we help people of any age and any background build the skills that they need to have the careers that they want. And our core program is this fellowship program that's open to people from anywhere in the world, but happens here in Nairobi. And that's the class that was happening. Now, I don't know how many of you remember the context of May 2014. How many of you were living here then in May 2014? Okay, not that many, which says something about Nairobi, huh? It was only 2 years ago. So May 2014 was an interesting time. Between April and June, there were a number of terrorist attacks and bombs that went out in matatus, in markets, and so on. A number of organizations, high-profile organizations in our field, left the country. So the Peace Corps pulled out. A couple of missionary churches pulled out. Some of my friends had to leave the country because their organizations left. There were travel warnings to come to Kenya. Some of my friends who worked for the US government were saying that if I can't go to the coast for my best friend's wedding because I'll lose my job. So this was the context in which all of this was happening. And so going back to that day, about a few hours later, we got a call from the building administration saying, everything's clear, the police have gotten all the bad guys, it's safe to come back. So I have a colleague, his name is Peter. He'd been recently married, and so he wanted to go back to the building for 3 reasons. Firstly, we needed some materials for the next day of class. Secondly, he had recently bought his wife an iPad for her birthday in surprise. And also my passport was still in the office, and we wanted to get that. But also because, I don't know if you guys remember what happened after Westgate, when the Westgate attack happened and the looting that followed that. So we wanted to make sure the same thing didn't happen to our building. So we wanted to get our stuff. So Peter went over there. And about an hour later, I got a call from him. And I picked up the phone and I said, hey, Peter, are you on your way back? And he said, no, I'm still stuck in the office because apparently there's 1 or 2 guys left and the police have been yelling and whistling, saying stay in your offices because they are still armed. And these guys are all armed, by the way. So poor Peter was stuck in the office, and suddenly I have one of my employees in an office where there's a gunfight going on. So I left Nairobi Garage and went back to our office, which was on Kindaruma Road in a building called Top Plaza, if any of you know it. And so I go over there, and there's a few other people have gathered. There are friends and family members of other people who had gone back into the building and were also stuck there. And there's this high wall, and so the police are saying, don't be visible, don't be visible. So we're all like hiding behind this wall so that bullets that might be flying don't hit us. And I'm thinking of my, my colleague who's stuck there. And later he told me all he could think about was his wife, because they'd recently been married, and he was, his life was flashing before his eyes and all of that. But anyway, a few few minutes later, the police, they did their thing, which you know what that means. And a couple of bodies were removed from the building, and I saw it go out in this police jeep. And Peter came out, and he was okay, a bit shaken up, but he was fine. And we went back and continued with our day. But that night, we all had to process what had happened. And so, because we knew all of this context of terror attacks and people leaving and so on, but this time it had hit home, right? This was our building, our office had been hit, and it had nothing to do with terrorism. It was a crime, it was, a regular robbery, but it had become personal. So we had to decide, what were we going to do about this? So we had an emergency meeting. It was me and my co-founder, and we had an advisory council member who was here, and the faculty who was teaching that class, who had flown in from the US, was also here. And we had to decide, should we stay or should we go? Because we were facing a lot of pressure from parents of our students and other people saying, is Kenya safe? Like, should we be there at all? And so we thought about this for a while. It was a pretty heated conversation. And in the end, we decided we're going to stay. Because the reason we came here and the reason we didn't set up in New York or London or Washington or Singapore was because there are problems here. And because there is, why I love emerging markets, I come from one in India, is that there's this dynamic of problems, but also possibility and progress that's happening in these cities. And we wanted to be here for that. And if someone didn't feel like they were safe enough to stay here, then we were fine, like they can go. We said like safety is a personal decision for everybody. So if anybody wanted to leave from our class, we would be fine with that. We would refund them, but we wouldn't let them graduate because our values said that, part of the reason we're here is because of the situation. And so that led to some problems for us. We had a couple of partners pull out. We lost a lot of business. The faculty member who was here has never come back to teach for us. And one of our students was so angry that we didn't let her graduate that she still doesn't talk to us till today. So it was a bit of a tough time, and we faced some losses because we decided to stay, but because of our values. But then we went back to work. We put our heads down. We worked hard. The rest of 2014, 2015 was a bit tough for us. But then 2016 happened, and the tide started to turn. And last year was an incredible year for us. We trained hundreds of people around the world. Our business became financially stable. We were invited to do TED Talks, speak at the White House. We won awards, and it was like this incredible year, and it felt like everything was back up. But it wouldn't have happened if we had left in 2014. If we had said at that point that this is too dangerous, we're going to leave. So my wake-up call was obviously a wake-up call in two ways. One, it was an actual wake-up call. And secondly, it was a wake-up call to also stand up for your values and do the things you believe in. And that will lead to success eventually. Thank you.